What if I told you you don't need a Fujifilm camera or even a roll of film to get that cinematic filmic look? I found a way to make my digital sports photos look exactly like film without losing the speed and flexibility of digital. And the best part, you can do it too with the camera you already own, and I'm going to show you exactly how. What's up everybody, Jaron Fritz, aka FrizzyVisuals. I'm the creative director for Colorado State Athletics with multiple years of professional sports center photography experience, and today you'll learn the exact film emulation settings I use, watch me break down football edits step by step, and unlock the secret sauce, an off-the-book trick no one else is showing. To achieve this look, you'll need Dehancer, the LightRoom plugin I linked at the top of the description below. It's the most powerful film emulation software out there. I hesitated on the price initially, but it's the one plugin I use daily, and it's completely transformed my edits. This video isn't sponsored in any way, but if you grab the plugin, make sure to use code FRIZZY at checkout for 10% off. My Sony a7R V gives me a crisp digital base, and the real magic happens once it hits Dehancer. Inside Lightroom, I've already exported the edits and trimmed the gallery to my best frames. Now it's time to fire up the Dehancer plugin. Head up to Photo, Edit In, then select Dehancer. A window pops up that feels a lot like Lightroom. On the left, you've got all the preloaded film stocks, and on the right, you can fine-tune every setting. No film expertise needed, as you see on screen. I'm just scrolling looking for one that reacts the best with the photo. A thing to note here is that changing the film stock on the left does not change any settings on the right side. The film stock is purely color grading the image. Dehancer packs a huge library of film stocks, but the one I locked in on for this shot was the Fuji Chrome. So once I selected it, it was time to go through some of the film settings. I'll turn everything off just to start so we can break down each tool step by step, but if you're new, don't overthink it. The first 5 tabs, Film Developer, Film Compression, Expand, Print, and Color Head, should stay on and untouched. It's a solid starting point, and even I don't touch them unless I'm chasing something extra. Here's where it gets interesting though. These settings aren't just more or less sliders. Each one is tied to real film formats and box speeds, giving you authentic variations instead of just intensity sliders. Think of film as physical strips that come in different sizes. We have 8mm, 16mm, 35mm, and 65mm. The smaller the film, the less information it can hold, which makes things like grain, halation, and bloom way more noticeable. However, the bigger the film, the more detail it can store, so changes feel much more subtle and smooth. That's why when you choose something like 8mm ISO 500, it's going to look extremely grainy, because in real life, that tiny piece of film would be pushed to its limits. On the other hand, if you pick 65mm ISO 50, it'll look much cleaner and smooth because there's way more room in the film to handle that light and detail. So instead of just being an intensity knob back and forth, these settings are giving you authentic film character tied directly to how different film formats and speed would actually look if you shot on them. So with that in mind, for this shot, I went with a middle ground 16mm at 250. The grain shows up enough to feel film, but it's not overpowering. The next one's my favorite, Halation. When shooting on real film, the brightest parts of the image, like highlights, can bleed into the surrounding area. That glow is called halation, and while it can show up in a few different colors, it usually appears as a warm red or orange halo around those hotspots. Activating halation adds a red glow around the helmet. The no remjet option boosts it even more, as you can see. Remjet is a coating on film, like Kodak Vision 3, that reduces halation by blocking light bounce. Choosing no remjet and Dehancer mimics Cinestill, where the layer is removed, making halation much stronger. Now back on the photo, 95% of the time I use halation. However, for this in particular, I decided against it. Another tool I love is bloom. It controls how much highlight spread, kind of like halation but without the red glow. I always keep this on, usually set around a 35mm strength. The last setting is vignette. It adds that natural corner darkening you see in film, and while it's subtle, I never skip it. It gives every image a little bit of a cinematic edge. I think this looks great for now, and once you're set, just head up to the top and click OK. Dehancer drops a copy right back into your Lightroom gallery, so side by side, the original is on the right, looking sharp and digital, while the Dehanced version is on the left, feeling way closer to authentic film. Alright, the beginner tips are done with. Here's what you really clicked for: the ultimate black and white film look in a halation hack so real, it fools full-time film photographers. First up, the black and white film look. I've poured years into shooting and editing black and white, so I thought I had the process mastered, but Dehancer, it completely changes the game for me. Check this out: the full color edit, the black and white version, and then the Dehancer black and white. 3 different looks, all strong, but the Dehancer one adds a depth the others just can't touch. Here's another example. Full color, black and white, Dehancer. The glow and richness stand out instantly, and the best part, it's super easy to do. Let's jump back into Lightroom and I'll show you how. Here's the base black and white. Before sending it into Dehancer, I push the clarity and texture way up because Dehancer smooths things out naturally, and this trick gives it more detail to play with. I then go photo, edit in, Dehancer. Dehancer comes loaded with 8 black and white film stocks, but when you start with a black and white image, the library expands dramatically. Even then, I found sticking with true black and white film stocks gives me the best results. Film black and white has way more character because the film base itself has a natural tint, and when it's printed, the paper isn't pure white either. That little bit of warmth makes it feel organic instead of clinical, whereas you go digital black and white, it's just pixels turning gray, super clean, super sterile. My black and white rotation is simple. Ilford HP 5+400 speed, the classic, Neopan 100 for something that is clean and crisp. Then my go-to cinematic look is definitely the Kodak Eastman XX, the same film stock Nolan used for Memento. Settings wise for this edit, I keep it really simple. Halation is off and grain is at 16mm 500 speed. And then when you line it up against the other version, both shots hit, but in totally different ways. Notice how the color tint and grain instantly boost the Dehancer edited image, adding a richness and depth not achievable from normal edits. Now, if you want to push black and white into something more abstract, especially without people, Dehancer is perfect. This helmet shot is a great example. When editing this in Dehancer, I went with the Xpan 125 film look, an expired look that adds extra haze and grain. Then for the grain setting, I pushed it past the standard 8mm at 500 speed, switched to custom, and cranked it even higher. Watch this 3-part progression. Original black and white, a 35mm grain look, and finally the custom grain look. Each one adds a new layer of character. This is the part of the video that separates casual edits from pro level work. Dehancer's halation looks great, but what if you could place it exactly where you want? The built-in mask mode won't get you there, but this next trick, by exporting 2 versions, blending them in Photoshop, you unlock total control and the results look better than film. Here's the Cinestill 800T look with halation at 35mm. I love it on the shoulder pads, subtle and clean, but on the face and hair, it's just way too intense, and this is exactly where custom masking changes everything. Since I like the halation on most of the image, I'll save this shot as is, then go back to the original frame, reopen it in Dehancer with the exact same settings, but this time halation off, and save that one as well. Now we've got 2 versions, one with halation, one without. Drop them into Photoshop, stack the halation layer on top, and add a mask. With a low opacity brush, you can dial back the glow anywhere that feels too strong. Since both shots are identical, halation is the only difference, giving you total pixel perfect control over the effect. They may look like tiny tweaks, but that could be the difference between something that feels digital or feels like film. I use this hack nonstop on portraits, my own photos, and every single one of them has halation masking layered in. It's definitely my go-to. That's Dehancer in action, but the real show starts next week, episode 14 of D1 Photographer Colorado State's home opener, my first football game in Canvas Stadium with the Rams, and I'm bringing you on the sidelines with me from start to finish. Subscribe right now, hit the bell, you don't want to miss it. Until next time.